Have you ever been in awe before? Awe is a feeling of reverential respect mixed with fear or wonder. Awe is the feeling of reverential respect mixed with fear or wonder. Awe is that feeling you get when you see nature in the raw. Anybody ever seen the Grand Canyon? Awe. Mountains? Awe. Aurora Borealis? No travelers. Nature, mountains, oceans, awe. Awe is the feeling you get when you see grizzly bears and whales, and maybe you go to the aquarium or the zoo and you see these huge animals, and you're like, man, how'd they get that big? That's awe. Awe is that feeling you get when you're at the head of the bed and that woman that you love, she's trying to bring a new creation into the world. That's awe. I've been there 6 times. Labor is like not even that bad. That's a funny joke I say that's not funny, and people get mad about that. Or when you hold that baby in your arms, that's awe. And you're thinking, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna do it right. That's awe. In my opinion, we can only really experience awe when we're encountering God, and that's why we feel that way. That's why we feel awe when we observe creation. Have you ever been in awe of God? Anybody? Yeah? Mm-hmm. I've been working in ministry for 13 years. And I've seen awe in my life more times than I can count. And it probably started here. As soon as we get this picture up. Any picture? We got a picture. Okay. That's the day I was baptized. I experienced awe that day because I had this awareness that God took a troubled kid, a thief, a liar, a user, and he wiped his past away. He adopted him and he said, "You are new." So I experienced awe that day, and if you're wondering, yes, I was crying. The water level was higher when I left the pool than it was when I got into the pool. I experienced awe when I was baptized. I experienced awe when I had the opportunity to baptize a friend of mine for the first time. He was crying, I was crying. That was awe. I experienced awe when I saw a small youth group of 15 kids turn into hundreds of kids and turn into this church. That's awe. And if I didn't have a sermon to preach, I could talk about all the examples of awe that I've seen in my life. But we don't have all day, unless you want to be here all day. I don't think you want to be here all day. But I can tell you that those awe moments are the best moments of my life. Now we see awe on the pages of Scripture. We see it all over. If you just open to the first 5 books of the Bible, you see God pursuing a people. And he finds a man named Abram. And Abram would be the father of Isaac. And Isaac the father of a man named Jacob. And Jacob the father of 12 sons, including Joseph. And Joseph would be a great ruler. But trouble comes. Enslavement comes. So God calls a leader named Moses. And when Moses heard the voice of God, a feeling came over him, a feeling of reverential respect mixed with fear and wonder. He was in awe. And Moses asked God his name, and God responded, "I am. I am that I am. I am the self-existent one. I am the beginning and the end. I am the uncreated, the incomparable. I am the answer to every question, the solution to every problem. I am awe. I am majesty. I am limitless. I am. In the Hebrew, the word sounds like Yahweh. A word so holy that people wouldn't even speak it. Yahweh. This is a word of awe. For a God of awe. But the problem with awe is it's easy to lose. This thrill of sunshine, the joy of a new baby. Well, sunny days become rainy days, and newborn babies poop, and they cry, and they turn into 2-year-olds and teenagers. So awe is easy to lose. And the consequence of lost awe is disorder and chaos and hatred and confusion. And this is the world that Jesus descends into as a restorer of awe. So if you have a Bible this morning, we want you to take it out to John chapter 4. If you don't have a Bible, we will give you one. Sound like I'm reading your Miranda rights. Does anybody need a Bible? You can have one, you can keep it. Sorry, Ken, I should have told you we're going to give Bibles away. If you need a Bible, put your hand in the air, we'll get you a Bible. You can put your name on it, you can keep it. The words will be up on the screen. If you prefer to use technology, you can use the Bible app. Go to the Bible app, hit the More button in the right-hand side, right lower corner, click Events, find Altar Church, and you can follow along. Now, starting in verse 4, he, being Jesus, had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had been given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well, and it was about noon. If you've done an online Bible study with me, we've done a couple of online Bible studies. Put your hands up in the air again if you want a Bible. The Bibles are coming. If you've done an online Bible study with me, you know that details are important because the details paint the picture for us. So let's talk about the details. Jesus is going through Samaria. Jesus is from a place, a region called Galilee, and he often travels to Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Galilee, Judea, Samaria is right in the middle. Samaria was unfriendly to people like Jesus. It was unfriendly to Jewish people because there was bad blood. There was bad blood between these two people, the Samaritans and the Jews. Jesus was in a town called Sychar. He's sitting at a well. This particular well was dug by a man named Jacob. Do you remember Jacob? Abraham, the father of Isaac. Isaac, the father of Jacob. Jacob, the father of Joseph. Joseph, the great-great-great-grandfather of Moses. Moses, who was awed by God, who calls himself, what? Yahweh. What we find here in these first few verses is that Jesus is in a place that's very far from home. He is a foreigner. Yet this place has great meaning and symbolism to him. And I imagine that there's a heightened sense of awareness. He knows that he won't be welcome in this place, but probably also a sense of nostalgia. He's in a place that's very important to his people. Two more details. What is Jesus' physical condition? Can anybody tell me? It's right up there. He's tired. Very good. What time of day is it? It's noon. And what do you think it's like at noon in the Middle East? It's hot. So Jesus is hot, and he's tired, and he's thirsty. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" Because his disciples had gone into the town to buy food. Again, drawing out the details, we see this woman is a Samaritan. Now, we just said that Jews and Samaritans are hostile. So it would be appropriate to say that from Jesus' perspective as a Jewish man, forget all the Son of God stuff, if he's just a Jewish man, the woman who's approaching is an enemy. And from her perspective, she's walking towards an enemy. Why is he there? Will this man hurt me? I see him there. Is he trying to poison our well? And maybe she's thinking she should go home and maybe return later once he's left. And maybe it would be wiser for her to go with other women. Because that's when people generally went to the well in groups. Not at noon. It's too hot at noon. They would go in the morning. But she's alone. She's alone because other women don't want to be with her. Alone because there's something about her that makes her undesirable. Something that makes her an outcast. And so she walks to the well with this knowledge. In the blazing heat, moving towards the stranger from Galilee. And they encounter one another in awkwardness. Jesus breaks the ice. Jesus says, hey, can you give me some water? Can I please have some water? And I imagine him saying this with tenderness and kindness. He's aware of her insecurity. He knows her fear. But the best way to cut through those emotions is just to have conversation and be relational. Can I have a glass of water? I'm thirsty. Can I please have some water? The Samaritan woman said to him, is anybody, now we got to read this with sass. Is there anybody that can read with sass? Can I get a volunteer? Hey, Wendy, where you at? Wendy Miller. Come on up, girl, come on. Give it up for Wendy Miller. Don't be shy. You're not shy. You're not shy. All right, I want you to read this right here. Yeah, right there. Be sassy.
With sass?
With sass.
You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?
Good job. Good job. You did a good job. Wait. Now read this.
Oh.
But kind of this thing.
For Jews do not associate with Samaritans.
Good job. Get up for Wendy. You were so sassy, girl. Good job. So she's saying, you are a Jew, I am a Samaritan, and we don't like each other. Our ancestors don't like each other. Our descendants won't like each other. How are you going to ask me for a glass of water? Now the text says, for Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Now some say that the best way to translate this is to say that Jews and Samaritans don't share dishes. So if I've come to the well and I don't have a bucket, and you're there and you have a bucket, how am I going to drink? I'm going to drink from your bucket, right? Right? What this woman is saying is, I don't want your germs on my bucket, dude. You get your own bucket. I don't want no Jewish man drinking from my bucket. Everyone here has heard of the segregation in the Deep South in the, in the 50s and the 60s. Everyone's heard of that. This is what's happening here between the Jews and the Samaritans. Racism, religious extremism, superstition, hatred. Now, Jesus hasn't said anything wrong. He's being kind. But beyond this conversation, there are hundreds of years of animosity between the Samaritans and the Jews. So Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. If you knew what I was offering you, I wouldn't need to ask you for water, because you'd be asking me for living water. Now, Jesus is speaking metaphorically. The water that she's talking about is necessary for cells and organs and physical life. But the living water that Jesus is talking about is also necessary for life. But it nourishes and replenishes and sustains long after the physical body is dead. She's talking about water that will leave you thirsty again. He's talking about water that is eternal, forever life-giving, forever sustaining, forever restoring. Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Now she doesn't get it. She doesn't get it, and that's okay. We often don't. She says, look, Jewish man, how on earth are you going to get living water out of that well when you don't have a bucket? Because I already told you, you ain't using my bucket. She is speaking of the physical. Jesus is speaking of the eternal. There is a disconnect between what she is perceiving and what God is promising. And this is often true of us. There is often a disconnect between what we are perceiving and what God is promising. She asks, are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock? The woman asks, what's so special about the water that you have? Because this well was dug by our father Jacob. You remember Jacob, right? Abraham, father of Isaac. Isaac, father of Jacob. Jacob, the father of Joseph. Joseph, the great-great-great-great-grandfather of Moses. Moses, who was awed by God. God who called himself Yahweh. It's strange that she calls Jacob her father, because I thought that Jacob was Jesus' ancestor. I thought Abraham and Isaac and Jacob were the ancestors of the Jewish people. Now she's saying that they're her ancestors. It's true. The Samaritans and the Jews were cousins. They had the same blood running through them. Both descendants of awe, yet now enemies, so disgusted with one another that they wouldn't even drink from the same cup or socialize. They wouldn't even communicate. Children of awe now living in hatred. So now you know why Jesus is here. He's not on some aimless journey. He didn't randomly stop at this well just by happenstance. He reached into this woman's story because he wanted to facilitate a revealing of awe, a return to awe. Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give will never thirst. Instead, the water I give them will become a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, sir, give me this water so that I don't have to get thirsty and I have to keep coming here to draw water. This water in the well will satisfy you until you have to come back. It will provide temporarily, but you're going to come back again. You're going to get thirsty again. Living water is endless. It wells up inside and overflows into every aspect of our lives. Living water is healing. It gives life and restores the broken parts of our identities. But she doesn't get it. She's focused on today, and Jesus is focusing on forever. She's asking for ordinary. Jesus is offering awe. She's clueless. She has no idea what he's talking about. So Jesus changes his approach. He told her, go call your husband and come back. I have no husband, she replied. Jesus said to her, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you are now with is not your husband. There's a reason the woman came to the well by herself. There's a reason she avoided the other women. There's a reason she was willing to carry the weight of those buckets in the noonday heat. She was a moral outcast. She was tired of being pointed at. She was tired of the gossip and the laughter. She was tired of the snickering and the dehumanizing way they talked about her and laughed at her and pointed at her and judged her. Because for those Samaritans, 1 marriage was good. 2 was fine. 3 was okay. 4 was unacceptable. 5 was reprehensible. And to live with a man who wasn't your husband, totally intolerable. So Jesus asked her this question that had to rock her to her core. A flood of emotions overwhelmed her: shame, guilt, regret, remorse. And now there's this man and he knows me. He's revealing it. How would he know? He's a foreigner, a stranger, and yet he knows me. Sir, the woman replied, I can see that you are a prophet. Now, this is a confession of sorts and an acknowledgement that she's made mistakes. Also an acknowledgement that this is a man with divine insight. And she's right. He knew her. As soon as he saw her coming, he knew her. He knew her mistakes. He knew her past. Not just in relationships, but everything. She knew she was a moral outcast, probably in her society a gender outcast. And yet, he didn't initiate conversation by revealing her deficiency. He initiated conversation by revealing his mercy. He didn't approach her in condemnation. He approached her in restoration. New water, new life, new heart, new awe. You see, her mistakes weren't the problem. Her mistakes were the symptom. And the solution wasn't behavior modification. The solution was Jesus pouring himself into her, living water into her life. Grace first, then change. Come on, church. Grace first, then change. Grace first, then change. As she acknowledges Jesus' supernatural understanding, you could sense that she knew he was different. And maybe we can sense hints of awe returning. The awe of her ancestor Abraham, father of Isaac. The awe of Isaac, father of Jacob. The awe of Jacob, the father of Joseph. The awe of Moses, who first encountered the source of awe, Yahweh. Self-existent one, the beginning and the end, the uncreated, the incomparable, the answer to every question, the solution to every problem. Hints of awe, yet still insecurity and shame, because she quickly changes the subject. Our ancestors worship on this mountain, but you Jews claimed that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. Woman, Jesus replied, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father, Yahweh, seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. Because she is uncomfortable, because her heart has been revealed, because she is uncertain how to respond, she changes the subject and starts engaging Jesus in a theological discussion. A discussion that would highlight the differences between the Samaritans and the Jews. Jesus' response is to say, essentially, you got to forget about those differences. Forget about this small stuff. Because everyone will have access to awe. Everyone will have the opportunity to encounter Yahweh. The division and the distinction that separates you will be removed. And your standing before God will be measured not by your heritage, not by your ethnicity, not by your religious practices or how you adhere to rules. It will be measured by your heart and how you respond to the one that God has sent. She changes the subject. Jesus brings it back around to himself. I am living water. I offer it to you. You are an outcast among your people, and you probably feel unqualified to be relational with God. But the things that make you feel unqualified are not things that God will measure. God will measure your heart and how you respond to the one he sent. Essentially, it boils down to this. God will measure you based on your response to me. It couldn't be any clearer, so this is the moment she probably gets it, right? Because she hasn't been getting it. So you'd imagine that this is the moment, right? Is she going to get it? The woman said, I know the Messiah called Christ is coming. And when he comes, he will explain everything to us. Come on, lady! Why don't you get it? Have you ever talked to someone and you've broken it down real simple and they don't quite get it? Yeah. Now, there's passion in me to debate. You give a guy a couple philosophy classes and you teach him the word syllogism, okay? And it gets dangerous. And so I got this streak in me that wants to debate, and believe me, I've torn it away. Back away, Kyler. But I've broken things down sometimes to people, okay? And they don't get it, and it makes me frustrated. It makes me angry. And this is where Jesus is at. He's having a conversation, and she's not getting it. He's talking about eternal life, and she hears buckets of water. He's talking about restoration, and she wants to talk about religion. He's talking about true access to awe, access to Yahweh, access to I am. And she's talking about meaningless religious rituals. She's waiting for the one to reveal truth while she stands in the presence of the one to reveal truth. What's her problem? Her problem is her expectations for God are too small. That's what happens when we lose our sense of awe. We develop low expectations for God, and we lose sight of what he can accomplish. She was living in the shadow of awe. An ancestor of Abraham, father of Isaac. Isaac, the father of Jacob. Jacob, the father of Joseph. Joseph, great-grandfather of Moses. Moses, who was awed by the God who called himself Yahweh. But she never discovered awe for herself. It left her thinking small. It crippled her vision. It kept her in fear. It left her feeling resigned that she'd always be an outcast, always be unloved, never be able to connect with God. And we see this happening in the church. It can happen in our own life. When we lose our sense of awe, our relationship with God can become short-sighted. We become crippled and fearful. We become afraid to make bold steps or any step at all. We'll grow insecure. We'll stop believing that God has the power to change people. We'll stop believing that God works through broken down people and broken down stories. We won't understand why God would offer grace before change, and then once we've changed, expect us to know grace and to talk about grace and to give grace to others, and once we've received grace, to change ourselves. If we lose sight of awe, we won't feel compelled to love other people. We'll lose a heart of generosity. And then we end up creating a God of our own. And this God that we'll create is the antithesis of Yahweh. Because this God won't ask us to do anything at all. It won't be a God of power. It will be a God of complacency. It will encourage us to squabble about politics and traditions and clubs and class distinctions. It will encourage us to be self-consumed and self-focused. And it will keep us surrounded by the same kind of people, always doing the same kind of thing, never changing, never growing, never being bold, never accepting challenges. And this is where Jesus finds that woman. That's her mindset. Too ashamed, too broken, too stubborn, too blinded to see awe when it stood right in front of her. I know that Messiah called Christ is coming. And when he comes, he will explain everything to us. And Jesus saw her shame. He saw her brokenness and stubbornness and blindness. So he responded with a declaration. He responded with a declaration. I, the one speaking to you, I am he. Two words demand our attention. In the original language, ego, I, me. Ego, I, me. They appear 24 times in the book of John. They are translated, I am. They are translated, I am. Do you see what's happening? 24 times in the book of John. Ego, I, me. Ego, I, me. Each time a declarative statement of awe. Each time a declarative statement of Yahweh. The awe of Abraham, the father of Isaac. The awe of Isaac, the father of Jacob. The awe of Jacob, the father of Joseph. The awe of Moses. Yahweh, embodiment of awe, standing before the woman, standing at the well, and his name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. I am that I am. The self-existent one, the beginning and the end, the uncreated, the incomparable, the answer to every question, the solution to every problem. I am awe, I am majesty, I am limitless, I am. The one worshipped by her ancestors, the God of awe, was standing before her, offering living water. He was greater than her vision, more satisfying than her expectation, more available than she could have ever hoped for. And since he is the source of awe, he is the one that expands our vision. He is the one that empowers us to boldness. And this leaves us without excuse. This banishes complacency. So as we serve him and follow him, awe should be evidence in our compassion. Awe should be evidence in everything that we do. So when the world sees us, when the world sees me, they will see awe. And when the world sees the church, they will see awe. But a return to awe requires a surrender of the ordinary. Because ordinary won't plant 100 more churches. Ordinary won't baptize thousands of new believers. Ordinary won't take women buried in shame and use them to change lives. But that's what awe does. Awe takes a woman with small vision and low expectations. A woman named Fotini. That's her name. We know her name. Awe takes a woman with small vision and low expectations and empowers her to go speak awe into her village. Because that's what she did. Speak awe to her 5 sisters. She did that too. And speak awe to her 2 sons, and awe to all of Samaria. She does that too. And if awe can do that for the Samaritan woman, what will awe do for us? I'm not sure. I don't know exactly, because if I knew, it'd be too small. But we don't call this ordinary church. We call this altered church. And we're going to run towards awe. I want you to stand up. Come on now, stand with me. somebody better bring a towel. Somebody better bring a towel, because February 5th, we're gonna baptize. That's gonna be a day of awe. It's gonna be a day of awe, and we are gonna live lives full of awe. We are gonna see awe overflowing out of our lives to every situation, to every relationship. We are gonna be a church that runs towards awe, not afraid. Not afraid of boldness or service or sacrifice or love. We're gonna run towards awe. I want you to close your eyes. We're gonna pray together. We're gonna pray for awe. Lord God, I pray for a renewal of awe. Lord, there's people here who are missing awe. They're missing all the greatness that you are. I am Yahweh. They're missing it. My God, there are people here who need to know what awe is again because they've lost it. Let this be the day that awe returns. And church, I want you to raise your hands. Put your hands in the air. It's okay if you've never done it before. Put your hands in the air. Come on, church. Raise your hands, church. Raise your hands. My God, we stand in agreement. My God, we declare that we are a church restored. As we lift our hands to you, God, as we lift our praise to you, we trust you. We give our lives to you because we know in your hands our lives, in your hands our hearts are complete. You'll never take us to a place where we're unsafe. Never take us to a place where we can be lost. Your awe is worth it. My God, we ask that you pour down awe, you pour down your presence on our marriages, on our relationships, on our worship, on our finances, on our jobs, on our children. My God, now, my God, pour it down on us, my God. Thank you, God, for awe. We are a church of awe. We love you. We will serve you, Yahweh.